Welcome to Small Business Saturdays video series with your host and my husband.
And my dad, Aaron Montgomery.
Join the conversation.
Let's talk some business.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome into Small Business Saturdays. My name is Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me at oursuccessgroup.com. Hopefully everybody is off to a wonderful Saturday morning here. And I'm excited to talk to you guys today about purpose, about making sure we're clear on our purpose and basically finding your purpose, right? And I know we've talked about this a little bit in the past. So if you're a regular SBS listeners, that some of this stuff may sound familiar, but I believe that this is so important and it's such a part of the process, right? What this series this is the second week of a 13-week series. What this series is all about is really kind of building that roadmap of how do we create real success in our businesses and really even can take this over into our lives. So it's such a great tool to really get clear on your purpose, to find your purpose. And we're going to talk about why here today. So definitely want to dive right into that here in just one moment. But let's say good morning to everybody who's checking in here this morning. Good morning, Sandy. And I know we're having a little bit of internet chugging along here, so hopefully it moves forward for us. The computer's being a little janky here this morning, so that's why it took me a second to get it started. But good morning to Sandy and good morning, Mo. Hopefully everybody is having a great morning. All right, well, let's dive right into this so we can get into the meat of what we're here to talk about today, and that's finding your purpose. And really, we want to talk about living in our significance, really, is what we're here to talk about this morning. So to be unstoppable, you have to clearly know why you're doing something, right? And that's true with everything. You know, you must find that purpose. And regardless of what you think about yourself in this very moment, I guarantee that you have a purpose. There is a deeper purpose, deeper meaning to your life, whether you've taken the time to explore that, whether you believe that or not. I guarantee that that's true. And I know that when you are aligned with that purpose, you are the most successful. You're having the most fun. You're just feeling fulfilled. All of the great things in life come when we're actually living in alignment with that purpose. So I really believe that after we get that whole concept that we talked about last week in the taking 100% responsibility down, that obviously this would be the second one in line there. And then in my mind, second most important. So we're going to work our way down. Like I said, this is going to be kind of a roadmap, I hope, for everybody. So when we are kind of living in that purpose, we're aligned with why we do things. It is going to be able to clearly define our business for us. This quote from Nelson Mandela really stood out to me. What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made in the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead. And so, you know, obviously coming from somebody like Nelson Mandela, who really had a bigger purpose and served others and really put himself out there. What this though means to me is that our purpose is to serve something outside of ourselves. It's to grow. It's to become better each day, you know, work on improving, all that stuff. This does not mean that you need to go out there and change the world. I hope that you will, and I hope that you desire that, but that's not what living in your purpose is. It might not be that. It might be to just be, you know, fulfill that need to be artistic or creative. It might be to, you know, spread joy and happiness. There's all sorts of different things that it can be. So I don't want you to think that when we start talking about this purpose, that it's like this big concept that's a little too woo-woo for business. You know, it's not about that. It's not about that ultimately. It's about what it is for you. And everybody's going to have their own purpose in life. And the more clarity we get on that, the better. So again, if you think this is a little too woo-woo, then I get it, you know, right? You know, I was kind of there for a bit before I really decided that I wanted to be open to this. I wanted to play full out because I started to realize that without clarity of purpose, I didn't really have a guiding light. I didn't have those principles to fall back on. When times got tough, there was nothing for me to point to, and I was always just trying to come up with an excuse or blame or complain. And when I found that I had a purpose, that there were values to fall back on that helped me with my decision making, it helped me surround myself with the right people. Your purpose really gives you that ability to dig out of those kind of potential deep pitfalls. There's going to be challenges. You guys are experienced in life already and understand that there are challenges that we face on a regular basis. And we have choices when we get to those challenges, right? We go back to the taking 100% responsibility, though. We can choose to blame, complain, dig ourselves deeper into the hole, become depressed and all those things. Or we can also choose to say, hey, I've got a purpose. This is worth fighting for. This is worth doing more for. And it's not as easy as that. I get it, right? It's not as easy as just saying, yep, I'm going to choose to do this. We have to then choose to make those responses that build us into that place where we want to go. So again, if you're thinking this is a little too far out there for you, then being a business owner is probably going to be a challenge for you. I just want to be honest with you. You might be better off just kind of going and getting that job, that just over broke, because to be a small business owner, it takes some guts, it takes some courage, it takes some ability to get beyond the challenges. And the only way that I've seen to be able to do that in a long-term successful way, to be able to sustain it over and over again, is to have a real clarity of what your purpose is. So that clarity of purpose, or Simon Sinek famously coined it, find your why, right? So purpose, our why, mission, vision, the dream, the calling, whatever word it is for you, and pick that word, right? Language does matter. So pick a word that works for you. I've actually kind of settled on mission for me, but I like purpose as well. And then obviously I'm a huge fan of the work that Simon Sinek's done in start with why and finding your why and that kind of thing. So, find a word that works for you, but have that clarity. And once you start having that clarity, you'll understand that it allows you to solve a lot of problems a lot easier and overcome those things a lot quicker than you ever have. You can do things like, how do I decide what to do in that moment, right? You're faced with a decision that you have to make right now. And that can be really hard. It can almost be paralyzing. But when you're really clear on your purpose, that decision becomes really easy. Who are my ideal customers? That answering that question is hugely important in business. And without clarity of purpose, you're never going to be able to identify that. What are my company policies? Right. And you would just think, oh man, just like company policies, I'll go copy that off of somebody's website. Well, what's important to you and the way your values and the way you work and operate should be reflected in all of your company policies. What products or services should I be offering? Again, if you have a purpose and you're clear on that, then you can easily answer those questions. What is the price point of my product or service? Right? We get into understanding our costs and things like that, and how do we set our prices? And so there's certainly some data and science to that, but there's also a little bit bigger part of that's where the art form comes into play. That's where I drive somebody like Ali Banholzer, who's a total numbers nut crazy. I'm only partly a numbers nut, but there is an art form to it, and that art form comes from what your purpose is. What should my marketing message be? How do you want to come across? Are you somebody that's comfortable being salesy, or do you need to have a different message? And that's okay. Again, none of these things are right or wrong. And that's really important to understand, is that I don't want you looking around for what other people are doing when it comes to this. I want you to be true to yourself and be open and be, don't think that something's bad just because you feel strongly about it. That's not, just because other people think that's not true. That other people might think that because their purpose is different, and that's okay. Right? That's how we get where we go. That's how we cooperate together, because everybody serves a different role. So all of these questions, again, ideal customer, marketing message, how do I make those snap decisions? when you have that clear purpose, or when you're getting clarity of purpose, it gives you that form, that guidance for making those decisions. Because here's how you do it. This decision comes up, and it'll be somewhere kind of like a yes or no question typically, right? And so that need to make a decision comes up. And if you didn't have a purpose, you'd have to kind of, pros, cons, oh my gosh, got to weigh it all out. When you have clarity of purpose, you can say, does it match up to my purpose? Yes, do it. Does it not match up to my purpose? No, don't do it. Right. And boom, now you're there. And if it's no, then okay, now we're back to the drawing board and let's find something else that actually fits inside of my purpose. So this is really important when it comes to our business for sure. And I've also had conversations with folks where they said, well, personally, this is my why. And maybe they work for somebody else. Maybe they are have their own side gig or something like that. And then they go, and this is my purpose for my business. And I truly believe that both of those things are completely linked. Your personal purpose and your business purpose are one and the same. And though they might feel different, if you dig back down into the very root of what it is, like, for example, if you have a job and you're working for somebody else and their purpose is either not clearly stated, or they're not able to articulate it, or it's just different than yours, that will be ultimately, no matter how much money they pay you, it will ultimately lead to it not being a fulfilling job. You will end up hating going to work, and it has nothing to do with they're bad people, things are terrible, all these surface level things. It's because you have to have that connection, that match up to the purpose. And so the same thing goes for our business, right? You might want to have that business to make money, yes, but what does making money represent? Is it to support your family? You need to go deeper, right? Does it separate you from others? Does it allow you to live in a certain way? And then why do you want to live in that certain way, right? So you just got to keep digging deeper. So that personal mission and your business mission really are one and the same. They might have a couple different words differently. They might feel a little bit differently. We like to silo things as humans. Our brains operate in that way. Okay, I've got my personal life, I've got my business life, I've got, this community life. But the reality is you have one life. You're one person. You live all of these things, and really you're living all of these things at the same time. So what we need to do is we need to figure out, how can we articulate this very well, and then be able to try to communicate that to ourselves internally, to be able to make those decisions quickly, but also to be able to articulate that to others. And so we need to do the work. We need to spend the time doing the work to make sure that we get clear on this. And this is not going to happen overnight. I don't want you to be discouraged if, gosh, I've been working on my purpose and I just can't quite figure it out. It doesn't feel right. I worked on mine for, oh boy, 3 years, maybe 2.5 years. The timing, I don't always get really well at that, but at least 2.5 years, in some form or another, I was trying to find my purpose, my passion, my why, whatever. Read all the books and went through all the different courses. And, there were a few things, and I'm going to share some of those things that worked for me, but it's okay to keep working on it. It's going to evolve over time. And honestly, it's not ever going to change. I think the deep root will always be the same for people, but it will evolve as you gain more understanding and knowledge of who you are, right? And that's just the reality of it. That's part of life. We start off and we're going through these different phases, and the older we get, the more we understand about ourselves and what's important to us. So our purpose was probably the same back then. We just didn't understand it clearly enough. And so to continue to work on that, it's really something that for me annually, I look at. I say, okay, which part of this do I really want to be living and understanding and being out loud about? And then in that process, I kind of make sure, okay, is this still right? Right? Is this still feel right for me? And so what we need to do is kind of work on some exercises here. Now, when we talk about these exercises, again, you need to tweak it as you go. But when you have a well-defined purpose that you can share with others, it's going to give you that connection point, or really even a magnet to find those ideal customers. And when we start creating that magnet and those ideal customers start flocking to us, they become buyers, but they also become raving fans and potentially your best salespeople, because of the fact that they feel passionate about a similar purpose. And so you're fulfilling a need. And again, it could just be bringing connection to their community, right? And so you're creating branding experiences for them, right? I think what happened for me, and I think this is probably true for most of us, is we start to think about things like this and we go, man, this is really big, really deep, really kind of wooey. And it feels so far removed from I made this thing, right? That there just seems to be such a disconnect. But in reality, those things are way closer than you understand. You might not be thinking about the purpose of why you made this thing for somebody or made this thing for yourself. But the reality is, for me, this mug represents who I am and what I do. And it represents, on this side, it's got my Canfield certificates. Sorry, I'm holding it a little bit gingerly here because there's hot tea in it right now. I don't want to spill it on my computer. And it represents more than that. But at the end of the day, it's a simple coffee mug, right? I drink tea out of it. So the reality is they're a lot closer than we think. So one more bit here, and then we'll start getting into some other things here. So I also want to explain that a clear purpose is kind of that vision that will shine a light. And I think what happens for a lot of us is we can kind of start to think what success is, but we get really scared because we don't see the steps that we need to take. You know, we're uncertain of those steps. But once we get real clear on our purpose, all of a sudden those steps start showing up for us. And we have to be able to listen and look for those things. And then we also have to believe enough in our purpose to be able to take a blind step, but it's going to start shining a light on that path. And so a lot of people will call this your significance, or the greatness zone. It's a great book that I've read. It's a little story about kind of getting into this. So, and I can't remember the exact name, but it's greatness zone. It's on the reference page if anybody needs it. It's a nice little short book too, so it's a good read. But it is that map that gives you the clues. And to clearly define our purpose, what we really need to do is take a look at what are our core values, what are the passions that we have, right? What things do we lose all track of time when we do? What are the talents that we also have? And again, regardless of what you think about yourself, you have a talent. It's just so easy to you that you don't understand that it's a talent for you. But people from the outside looking in would go, wow, they really do that well, right? Like, you know, I a lot of times will talk to people and be like, wow, that's amazing. You know, look at how they connect with people. Look at how much empathy they have. Look, you know, and a lot of times we see those things because we maybe don't have those things as easily, right? So we got to be looking for those clues, and then we can identify those things because these are the times when we're happy, right? These are the times when we're excited. These are the times where we lose all track of time doing that particular activity. This is success. This is ultimately what success is. It's not the money. It's not the status. It's not the fame. It is when you fulfill that purpose, that is success for you. And that leads to all those other things. That leads to what you want from a monetary standpoint and what you want to be able to support your family and all that other stuff. So when you have that clarity and that feeling of success, you are essentially creating the rest of it as you go, right? You're just filling in the blanks now. And that's what makes this such a cool process, and why when we can compact that down and go, okay, this whole purpose and vision and why thing is really wooey to me. And I just want to make some coffee mugs. right? When I can compact that down and realize that there is a true connection, it's the inspiration that you're going to need when you make 100 coffee mugs and you realize you made an error and you lose your butt on them, or you lose your biggest customer, or a pandemic hits, or you can't get shirts, right? If we don't have that clear why, that clear purpose, overcoming those challenges are going to seem insurmountable. And once something seems insurmountable, that's when we stop. And we have to not stop. The only way you can fail in anything you ever do is by quitting, right? Now, sometimes you might want to quit while you're ahead, right? And maybe you were just going down the wrong path, but that's a learning experience. You didn't quit, you didn't fail, because you're just trying something new. So I'm not saying just keep doing things no matter what, but if it feels passionate, if it feels right, then just keep doing it. So let's turn the corner here a little bit. Sorry, I wanted to get my thoughts straight before we moved in. Good morning, Curtis. Thanks for being here. And Eric says, here's wishing you a purposeful session, folks. Good message to take in. Eric's out there in Impressions Expo Long Beach, so I appreciate you popping in real quick, Eric. Thank you, sir. All right. So, like I said, I want to turn the corner here a little bit and start digging into, okay, how do we find this purpose a little bit? And I've discovered that really most success, no, let me change that. That's not the right word. I've discovered that all successful businesses have a purpose that is about serving others. Right? I can't sell a product or service to myself. I must sell a product or service to other people to gain profit. Right. And so when we start looking at it from that vantage point, and then that helps us understand that our purpose really is about somehow relating to others, whether that's a product or service, whether that's supporting our community, whether that's changing the world, whether that's putting shoes on people that need shoes, right? The Toms, the story of the shoe brand Toms, so it can be really big. It can be what you might consider as small, but in your world, in your community, that's really big to them. And again, we get stuck in this trap of thinking that we don't have a purpose, we're not doing enough, it's too small, or any of those things, because to us, because it's a purpose, it's a significance, it's a greatness zone, it doesn't seem that big because it's just second nature to us. So you have to keep the perspective of your lens is fogging what is probably your passion. So the basis of the process is defining your business in such a way that it inspires you and your customer. I mentioned Simon Sinek earlier, and he's got a great quote here. He says, "Why does your company exist? Why do you get out of bed every morning? And why should anyone care? People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it." Right? And so getting clear, and so when I've talked to people and they say their purpose is to make money, you have to dig deeper than that. We have to go, okay, so if you are struggling and you're stuck here and you're going, well, my purpose is just to make money, right? Okay, well, why do you want to make money? Well, I need to support my family. Okay, well, what does supporting your family do for you? Well, it makes me feel this way, right? Okay, well, what is your value, right? And so we get into this stuff. It's understanding that deeper reason that gives you that foundation of having a true purpose. When you get clarity as to why you're in business, what drives you, what things also drive you a little bit crazy, right? Your why will be at the intersection of those things. So, the first area to get clear on is, what is the number one value that is important to you? And then ultimately that becomes important to your business. Is it quality work? Is it getting things right? What is the number one thing for you? Or maybe speed and service is more important, or maybe supporting worthy causes is important, or maybe helping people that are like-minded, right, in your community or in a particular group. Maybe you're really into like, for me, it could just be, I want to support people that fall in love with volleyball like I did, right? And I could start a business around that. But when I started thinking about that, then I started going, well, shoot, I need to dig a little deeper than that. Right. And so it became, oh, well, I want to support people that want to do more for others. And so my purposes then evolved out of that. So that's the first thing. What are the values that are important to you? And secondly, what are you passionate about? Now what you're passionate about and what your core values are might seem pretty similar, but they're probably coming from a little different angle. So the passion is kind of the actions, the things, the nouns, whereas the values are more of the verbs or the describers, the adjectives. So what are you passionate about? This is, again, the thing that you lose all track of time doing. Um, and what is that thing that you find yourself doing with such a passion that again, two things happen that what I just talked about, you lose all track of time doing, but B, you have a hard time charging for it or realizing that it's a value or a strength because it's so easy to you. And so that's your passion. And then lastly, you can figure out what things drive you a little bit nuts, right? What things do other people do that drive you a little bit nuts, that you cringe when they do, that kind of thing. It's kind of, what are you opposed to? The things that maybe raise the raise the blood pressure a little bit when you think about it. And this is not a person or a thing. I don't want you to think about the noun side of this, but I want you to think about the action. What is the action or trait that you find annoying? And what that does for us is, so we've got what our core value is, we have what our passion is, and then this annoyance here gives us that kind of third leg, that intersection, because what is the opposite of that annoyance is probably what your true core value is and true passion is. And so the intersection of those things, the patterns at the intersection of those things, is ultimately what your purpose is. And so when things are out of alignment with that kind of pinpoint in the middle, it's going to be difficult and unfulfilling. And once you start looking back and you start putting this into this perspective, and you look back over the entirety of your life so far, you're going to easily be able to go, yep, I know why that didn't work. Yep, I know why that didn't work. Right. Or, yep, I was unfulfilled in that particular job. Or, yep, wow, no wonder I spent so much time doing that. Right. And so this ability to have hindsight is a fantastic trait that humans have, and we need to use that. So from there, then you want to take that and you want to kind of turn it into something that is easily understood by other people. And then the resources that you need for success, like the customers and the partners and the stakeholders, are going to start showing up. So Einstein famously said, if I had an hour to solve a problem in my life, depending on the solution if I had an hour, I need to read it a little more clearly here. If I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on the solution, I would spend the first 55 minutes determining the proper questions to ask. For once I knew the proper question, I could solve the problem in less than 5 minutes. So I want you to take that 55 minutes or more and answer some questions, and thinking of questions that resonate with you. Now, many of you have probably seen this document before, but just in case, I'm going to put it out there and you guys can just download this for free. And it's a little kind of finding your why guide. Let me get to the right link here. And to easily get to it, you just go osg.link/why, WHY. So osg.link/why. And that's going to bring up a PDF document for you that you can then download, print out. And there are 20 questions on there that will help you find your why. And spend some time, get into the details of this and start working through that. The next thing that you want to do is really get clear on what your values are. And what I didn't understand when I first started trying to find my values was, our values and what we're good at are the same thing. And and so it's it's it was a little bit hard for me to make that connection. So hopefully you guys can make that connection. And ultimately what did it for me was I took this uh, assessment is what it is. And it was originally called Clifton Strengths. I think they still reference it as Clifton Strengths. It's now owned by the people that put out the Gallup poll. So that Gallup is, so it's now called the Gallup Strength Finder. And if you go to this link, it will take you to their assessment page and you can buy the assessments. There's two different versions. They're both the same thing, but one of them only gives you back your top 5 strengths, right? And that one's $20. So for $20, you can do that and get back your top 5 strengths. And it gives you a whole bunch of information that comes along with that. Now, what I would suggest, if this is something that's really important to you, do what I did and take the $50 one where you get all 34. And there are in this particular assessment, there are only 34. And so you basically have them ranked from your top all the way down to your bottom. Now, the bottom, they say, are not your weaknesses, but in reality, your top 5 to 10 are what you're really good at. And the bottom things are things that, you just have to make sure that you're aware so you don't have a blind spot. And then if you wanted to take it one step further, several years ago, I had a gentleman on here named Dan Vincent, and he's a coach for this particular program. And so not only was I able to take this test and get all that information back, but then I also got to spend an hour of time with him working through them and figuring out, okay, because when I started, I was horrified by all of the things that I consider my weaknesses, but he helped me see, okay, stay inside of your strengths. So for me, my strengths are significance. And, it's really to kind of have a tree of people, like a coaching tree, and just being able to support people and have them, continue to do better in their world. That's what significance is to me. It's solutions. So I'm always looking for a way to get better and finding solutions, even when I should probably just be listening. For those of you that are married, understand that sometimes I don't, that listening is important. And I'm getting better at not just going straight to the solutions, but that's a strength for me. Motivated, right? I really enjoy being around people that want to really work hard and do more for themselves, and instead of just waiting for a magic bullet. Productive. Again, I like getting things done. And I like to feel like I'm always moving forward. Efficiency, right? So you're seeing a trend here for sure. It's all in this same pattern. It's all in the same group. And so that's the beauty of being able to understand what your values are, is it helps you really quickly put language to what your purpose is. All right. So that's what I've got for you guys today. You can download this here, osg.link/y, and that's just a little document completely free for you. I think I normally charge like $5 for it, but it's all there for you, so that you don't even have to worry about going to the site and putting a coupon code in or anything like that. Just download it directly right there. And then if you really want to go a little bit deeper, again, you're gonna have to invest a little bit of money in this, but it could be a very worthwhile endeavor. So osg.link/Clifton Strengths with an S on the end. All right. All right, you guys. Well, that's what I've got for you. That's what I wanted to share with you today. I know we've talked about this purpose and finding your why maybe a couple times before. I didn't go and look exactly, but I really think that this is part of that roadmap, right? So last week we talked about empowering yourself and taking 100% responsibility. And once we can do the things and do the work to be able to feel confident in that, then understanding what our purpose is, that gives us the next bit of foundation. It shows us the next step on our journey. And then next week, we're going to talk about deciding what you require. We all have wants, and because of the pressures that society puts on us, we feel at times like we can't have wants, but those wants are really important to us. We have this purpose. We have this ability to kind of, what's the bigger purpose? Well, to be able to fulfill that purpose, we got to have wants. We have to have those little check boxes that we check off. And it really, those wants, after defining that purpose, now become the what's, the things that we do in between. And that's really important for us. So we have to get real clear on what it is that we want to do in our business and in our lives and things like that. But this is all something that you can use to fulfill your life completely. But I really believe that this is also the true roadmap for a successful business. And so I'm excited to continue sharing this with you. So next week, deciding what you require is what we're going to talk about. And hopefully that was of value to you guys today. I'd love to hear any comments, any questions. So get into the chats there, or feel free to reach out to me, success@oursuccessgroup.com, or you can find me on Facebook or wherever. And I'd love to talk more with you. So that's what we've got going on, and looking forward to coming into the end of January here for those of you that are listening in on the live version. And we really appreciate you being here. And I'm excited to talk to everybody again next week. But for now, have a great Saturday, and we'll talk to everybody soon.